Welcome to the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes, showing you how to do wholesaling deals consistently without having to go on seller appointments. Learn the key tips and strategies that Brandon's students use to find deeply discounted properties that are pennies on the dollar, all while avoiding wear and tear on their vehicle, body, and freedom. Whether you're looking for your first deal or your next deal, it's time to send more offers with your host, Brandon Barnes.
Hey, Chris, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm super excited to have this conversation. We have a lot to discover and a lot to talk about. I know you're doing some amazing wholesale deals. So let's just jump right into it. I mean, where did you start off, focusing on wholesaling? Was that always your journey with real estate? Or, did you just have such success that you stuck with it?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on the show. Really pumped to be here and looking forward to sharpening iron. So when my wife and I first started in real estate, wholesaling was the first strategy that we got involved in. We've done a handful of flips over the years and things like that, but we've always just come back to wholesaling. How we got started is I originally read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad back in the day, and I was so blown away by all the info in there. I was like, man, I got to get started in real estate. So my wife and I saw that there was a Rich Dad event coming to Tampa, right? And I told her I didn't want her to go with me. So we went to this event and they charted out all bunch of different types of strategies. They talked about development. They talked about, flipping. They talked about wholesaling, creative, all that stuff. And the strategy that really just kind of stuck with us and it just made sense was wholesaling. When they showed on the board how you could basically take a piece of paper and flip it for tens of thousands of dollars didn't matter if you didn't have any money, didn't matter if you didn't have like good credit or anything like that. We were just like, this is it. So that's the main thing that we started to identify with. And we're like, man, this is what we got to do. So we signed up for a class and learned wholesaling and then just hit the ground running.
Love it. And so, just to cover, that same journey is something that a lot of people have done, over the years, go to one of those events, hear about wholesaling, and jump right into it. I'm curious, how long did it take for you from the moment that you started and kind of give us when that was, to when you really got rolling?
Yeah. So it took my wife and I about 6 months to do our first deal. Mainly, we were working corporate jobs, like 60, 70 hours a week. And it was a grind, and so I was working all day there and coming home and building the business. But I wasn't as consistent with it as I needed to be because the class, while it was great and delivered the foundation of wholesaling, they didn't get into specifics as far as like the types of marketing you should be doing, how much of the type of marketing you should do. Like, how do you know you're on the right track? It was just very, very simple. Like, this is a football type wholesaling, right? And so we figured out a lot of things on our own. And after figuring out some things and then contracting our first deal and then that following through, the second deal that we contracted, we actually got it from a bandit sign. And we got the deal, right? And then we made $4,000 from that deal. Found the buyer the same way. We're like, man, if we can find deals with these plastic signs, we're going to find, let's see if we can find a buyer that way. And that's how we got the buyer. And it was just crazy. We ended up getting like 2 or 3 extensions with the seller. we were determined to make it happen. So, but that deal closed and we made $4,000 on it.
Love it. Well, I mean, this is exactly what a lot of the listeners want to hear about because, wholesaling at its core is that foundation into real estate. My mentors always say, hey, it's the cornerstone of all real estate investing.
Absolutely.
Because you're marketing and you're finding off market deals. And I want to empower any listener to know that they can also get into real estate investing through this channel. It's exactly how I got into real estate investing and then started to do some flips and some buy and holds directly from this strategy. So, like you said, they don't always tell you, how much marketing, what type of marketing, what works, what doesn't, how much you should be spending. What is working for you right now? How is your team thriving in this market?
Yeah. So what's working really well for us right now is cold calling. That's our main strategy that we're focusing on. We're doing some texting as well, and then some direct mail. But it's very targeted direct mail to very like specific lists with motivation. Right now, we're doing a lot of list stacking. So we're taking like, just give an example. Let's say you have an absentee owner, so someone that owns a rental property, right? And that property is vacant, and then maybe the owner lives out of state. So that's a highly motivated, stacked, motivated list to where they're very, very likely to sell, and you don't have to send a lot of pieces to be able to get a deal under contract. But our main core, we have a call center that we operate over in Bangladesh just for our team. We have like 5 cold callers and a call center manager. He oversees the team. And cold calling has been the most profitable and the highest volume producing marketing channel that we have.
Yeah, look, and I was just going to ask you, to deep dive that, who's doing the cold calling. So you mentioned that you have a team, that is exclusive to you. Walk us through that process of going from, starting off cold calling. I don't know if it was yourself or hiring a VA, to actually having a team of callers that you're working with.
Sure. Yeah, this is something I'm really passionate about because I see a lot of posts in different Facebook groups, like beginner groups, people just getting started. And they're like, hey, I haven't done my first deal yet, so I'm going to hire this VA. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get going. And I'm like, don't do that. So with my coaching clients that I have, I always tell them, listen, you have to do your first 3 deals from cold calling yourself. Your first 3 deals, okay? You can't hire a VA or anything like that before that. You have to get 3 deals from cold calling. And then once you've gotten 3 deals, everything there is to know about it for the most part. You can guide a virtual assistant if he's going to be making those calls on how to overcome objections because you've heard them all, right? And you know how the process works. I always say, like, you can't train someone on something you don't know or you haven't done yourself, right?
Weird.
So what we did, I cold called for a little longer than that. I think I did it for like 3 or 6 months. And we got a ton of deals. I think we did 10 deals from it when I first did it myself. Then I'm like, okay, I got to get out of this and I got to put somebody in place. But for everybody else,
what time period was that?
So I want to say it was between 3 and 6 months, somewhere around there.
What year?
That was, let's see, we've been doing it for, 5 or 7 years. We've been virtual using cold calling. So I want to say that was 2017, I want to say.
Okay. And I asked that question because that is, so I got started in 2016 and I feel like I met Brent Daniels. We were all both in the same mentor program through Wholesaling, Wholesaling Inc. And in late 2016, he kind of came out with, hey, TTP, talk to people, cold calling, and then launched that as a, mentorship into 2017. So this is right around the time that you're talking about. And, the getting was good. Cold calling was so useful.
It was a lot easier.
Wasn't that many people doing it, right? In 2017, 2018, 2019. And then, now the floodgates open and there's like a lot more people cold calling. So you really have to be good. You really have to know what you're doing. Or, utilize that economies of scale, right? And having multiple callers. So, talk about when you finally kind of dialed it in and going on and finishing what you were talking about like hiring the team and getting folks starting for you.
Yeah. So what we did, so I started calling myself, right? Then I got a bunch of deals and then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to outsource, ready to expect. I know how to train somebody on this. So what we did is I went to go look for my first caller. So you mentioned Brent Daniels. I've actually learned a lot from him. One of the things he recommended for a source to find callers was outbounders.com. And so that was one of the places that we went to find callers. But before we did that, I went through 2 call centers, right? And we were like, we're going to go all in on this. We're shutting off our direct mail and we're going to go all in on calling. So I hired 10 callers at once, right? From this call center, and it crashed and burned. It was absolutely crazy. I probably went through the entire team in the Philippines like 3 times. Then I went on to the second one and these guys promised they were going to be better, right? And then hired 10 people again, crashed and burned 3 times. And then finally, I was like, this is like, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and find someone myself, right? So we went out and found found someone ourselves on outbounders.com. He was an expat. He used to live here in the States, but now he lives over in Bangladesh, right? And we ran with him for the first, I want to say 60 days. And that 90th day, we had 22 deals under contract for one cold caller. So it was totally bananas. And so then we're like, okay, this is amazing. So now we're going to scale this out. So then, he was our best caller. And so we promoted him to being a call center manager. And then it was his responsibility to go out and find us more callers. So he went out and found us more callers. He'd network with local universities, things like that. And he helped us build out the team. And that's how we ended up finding people. Now we hired America too to test that out and see how that went. And that was really good. I mean, I recommend, finding people who are in a country where English is a first or second language, because it's going to minimize the accent and you're going to have a higher success rate on the phone with your callers than if they have some type of heavy accent.
Yeah, 1000%. And I went through a similar iteration, finding an expat. He ended up becoming my acquisition manager. That nice. Worked out really, really well. But it's tough, I think, now to continue to find good talent out there, with the team that you have going. Like, how are you keeping them motivated?
Yeah.
How are you working with the team in Bangladesh, or is that entirely your primary guy's job and duty?
Yeah. So he oversees the team. He manages our dialer and all that. But I have weekly meetings with him where we go over, the results from the previous week. We talk about obstacles that he came across. We talk about wins, because that's just as important as talking about the obstacles, right? And we just deep dive on anything that he needs to have to set himself up for a successful week. And so that's what we do. We have weekly meetings.
Love it. So now there's the piece about being virtual, right?
Yeah.
I've done 100% virtual over the years. I've done a mix of in-person and virtual. Right now, if it's a really great lead and we can get to it, we'll go on those appointments. That's just me and my team. But we do try to do as much virtual acquisitions as possible. Talk about what your team looks like at this point. Are all acquisitions after the cold call, are they 100% virtual? And then also, are you in one primary market, or have you expanded your footprint into multiple?
Yeah, great question. So we are 100% virtual. So when we first went into virtual, right, it was 2 years before COVID. And we just felt like at that point, it was the thing to do. My wife was acquisitions at the time, and she was going on like 15, 20 appointments a week. And she would come home at the end of the day looking just exhausted, not to mention the safety concerns for certain neighborhoods and just certain areas and things like that. So I looked at her and I was like, we got to do something different. Right. And so I looked into virtual at that point, and we're like, we're going to experiment doing this. So we started out 25% virtual, 75% closing in person. And then we went to 50% virtual, 50% closing in person, until we went all the way up to 100% over the phone. And that could be really uncomfortable for certain investors starting out, just because it's easier to say, okay, I'm just going to go get the contract myself. But we made it a non-negotiable with our team. And because we made it a non-negotiable, we were able to come up with different ways where we could get the contract, even meeting the seller in person, without us having to go. So we could send a third party, someone else, to do the same thing, and it worked. So that's how we went virtual. And the reason we went virtual, we've since grown to where we have an acquisition manager now. So my wife is no longer doing acquisitions, but she oversees our acquisition manager that we have. I was doing disposition, so selling all of our deals. I love dispo; it's so fun. And I've since put someone in place there. So we have a disposition manager. And then we have a transaction coordinator right now. And then we also have our our call center over in Bangladesh. And then I have an executive assistant.
Love it. And then is that in one primary market, or do you go outside of your primary market?
Yeah, so we are in, I want to say 9 different counties. So between 2 states, so Florida and North Carolina. So we target everywhere within 2 hours from Tampa Bay in Florida. And then we're also heavy in Duval County in Jacksonville, right?
Nice.
And then Charlotte Metro in North Carolina.
Very nice. Yeah, I love Charlotte. And then, from me here in Atlanta, Charlotte was the next best market for us. COVID kind of changed things, and we pulled back into Atlanta and just went a little deeper. It's out further from the city. But I love Charlotte. I think that it's another great city, as folks are considering markets. But you're really, have a great operation, it sounds like. Let's talk about the numbers. Like, what does a good month look like for you guys? Like, what are you guys goaled against, and what are you trying to achieve, each month? What's a good month for you so far?
Yeah. So, we've always aimed for 100K a month. That's always been the goal. Now we've kind of scaled back the business a little bit because we want to focus a lot of our time on coaching and helping other people get the results that we've gotten. So I would say, a good goal for us is anywhere between 60 to 100K a month. Nice.
And with, 5 cold callers, that's the primary channel. I mean, what are you guys looking at on a, how many leads per hour dial basis? And I say that with the caveat of, we used to, back in those great days, 2017 to 2020, trying to get a lead per every hour dialed from every caller. And then it seemed like that almost got cut in half with, so many folks out here doing it. What are you guys seeing on the metrics? What would you suggest to the listener that's saying, hey, I'm going to cold call? How many hours should I be on the dialer? How many leads should I be getting? And then how many leads do I need to close something?
Yeah. So you're right. It's really changed a lot. And this is a very, there's a lot of variables to this question, right? Because certain people consider certain types of leads a lead, and certain people consider certain types of leads like not leads, right? So give an example. Like, there's people that say, if the seller says, yes, I want to sell, but they don't have any motivating circumstances, it doesn't matter their asking price, some people consider that a lead. And they're like, oh yeah, I get 20, 30 leads a week from one cold caller, right? That to us is not a lead at all, right? So for us, they need to have the 4 pillars of motivation. They need to have the timeline, right? So they need to be willing to sell within 90 days. So that's our hot timeline. They need to be asking 80% of the Zestimate or less, right? They need to be the house, needs some work, right? It can't be like beautiful condition unless they're willing to sell for a discount and there's motivation. Then that we ignore that, right? And then lastly, there has to be some type of motivating circumstance. It's not where the seller wants to sell, but they need to sell. So for those types of leads, we shoot for an average caller being able to get 3 to 5 leads a week, right? For the average cold caller. For a rock star, he can get anywhere from 5 to 8 leads a week, right? So that's really what we shoot for. What we found is it takes roughly about 35 leads to get a contract. This year, it's been a little better. We've been at like 25 leads to a contract, but usually 25 to 35 leads to a contract.
Love it.
So love it. Yeah, that's how we,
that's great. And I think that's very similarly what I'm seeing as well. It used to be like, really strong, a lead per hour. And now, I've told my callers, hey, get a good lead or 2 per day, right? But 1 strong lead per day, that kind of equates here. And, I know folks can vary how many leads it takes to do a deal based on if they're offering creative. Are you offering any creative financing offers or, subject to or anything, or are you keeping it 100% cash offers?
Yeah, so we're 100% cash offers. Like, we're really big on one strategy and focusing on that strategy. And, something I share with a lot of my coaching clients is reading the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. That's such a powerful book because so many people, when they're first getting started, right? I truly believe the reason why people have a slow start, and this is actually one of the reasons why I think we had a slow start at the very beginning, is because you're drowning in information. You're drowning in opportunity, right? There's people saying, no, don't wholesale, creative sale right now. No, you're stupid. Don't do creative right now. Do flipping. Flipping. So I think, no, you shouldn't be focusing on this. Do this, and people are like, what am I doing? And so people are running in like 5 different directions and trying to figure out why they're not getting anything, right? Because if you have 100% effort, right, and you choose one direction, you're going to be able to go 100% there. You split that up into two different types of effort. Now you have 50% and 50%. It just goes on so on, right? So that's one of the reasons why we mainly focus on wholesale. And, I feel like if your process is dialed in and you know exactly what you're looking for, you're not really going to miss out on opportunity. Right now, like we do wholesale cash offers. And then on top of that, if the numbers make sense, we will list the property on the MLS. That's how we can like grow our profits a little bit. But mainly we're just focusing on wholesaling right now. And that's exactly what I recommend anybody that's just starting out. It's just, if you're going to pick a marketing or pick a real estate strategy, pick one and go deep with it.
Look, I want to give you that twice because, you are, a wholesaler's wholesaler, right? You are the epitome of what I started out in this business. I think our business models are a lot alike, and you're proof that, can just focus on cash deals, one marketing channel, and really get to the point where you are doing 6 figures a month and you're able to grow from there. And then, the world is your oyster. You can do different types of investment activities and strategies from there. But I really believe in exactly what you're doing, doubling down on your primary marketing channel, focusing on a few counties, right? Probably in your primary market to start, and just making cash offers. If you do it enough, send more offers, you will do deals. So I love it. Look, do you have a deal? I think we were talking pre-show about something that you're working on right now. Let's break down one of these things.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a deal we're working right now. We just went under contract with it. Let's see. I want to say it was mid last week with a seller. And then I actually sold it within an hour. The deal sold. And as of right now, it's set to close on Friday of next week. And we're going to make $30,000 on it.
Love it. And was that just a, traditional, owner with equity, absentee, anything special about the situation? What was the motivating factors on this one?
Yeah. So this was a absentee owner. He had a tenant that's been in the property forever. Sweet little old lady. She's there and she's been there forever. It's section housing. And so very reliable and steady stream of income. So that was really exciting for our buyers. But one of the big things is this is a neighborhood that's in transition, right? And there are huge developments going on here where the county is, throwing tons of money into just the development of the area and everything like that. And so it was less about the property, but more about what was going on in the area, right? Because the property needed a significant amount of work, right? And if the area wasn't being developed, you would look at the number we sold it for and be like, how in the world did you sell it for that, right? But the thing is, this is where expertise comes in as a wholesaler and how you grow as a wholesaler. You need to learn your area inside and out, whether it's your local area, whether it's your virtual area that you're in. You learn that area inside and out. And he who knows his area best is going to make the most amount of money, right? 1,000%. And so that's how we were able to grow our assignment fee on this one. Because if you didn't know the local area, you'd say, shoot, there's only about 5, maybe 10 to be able to make on this one. But when you know the area really well, we're like, man, this thing's going to sell. And then it's sold in less than an hour. And I'm like, dang, I think I should have sent it out for a little bit more.
Right. Well, look, and what I want to advise folks is that, the information that you can gather and how I learned my market and deals specifically, types of houses, the different factors to consider, was talking to the cash buyers, right? Absolutely. Put something out there, you do an inspection, whatever, get the feedback, understand why your buyers are buying, why they aren't buying, why they made an offer, and they'll start to lead you to what to look for in a deal. Look, this has been great, but there's two more things. We're just going in such a good path with a beginner that is interested in real estate investing and wholesaling. Needs to listen to this episode twice, because you're keeping it simple and you're absolutely crushing it. Just for folks, just to round things out, I want to talk two things: comping and dispo. Sure. I have a model that tries to keep it simple. I'm always looking at as is comps, or homes that have sold and as is condition in the area. In addition to looking for ARV, which is what after repair value. So we do look at the homes that have been fully renovated and see what they sold at, what price they sold at before they were renovated. So that was an as is sale. Or we'll look for something that sold on the MLS in as is condition, and say, hey, if we can get this property under contract less than that, you would assume similar condition based on what the seller says and based on what you know about the comp, then you should be able to make money on that deal. Very similar with rentals, right? If it's sold in rental ready condition, you can also base your numbers off of that if the property is in good shape. Are you doing anything different? Are you looking at, ARV times 0.7 minus repair costs, or do you also look for as is comps and base your offer off of those?
Yeah. So, very similar. So we're always looking for as is value, and we're always looking for the after repaired value as well, because if the as is value is there and there's a large engine for us, we will list our wholesale deal on the MLS. The caveat there is it needs to sell within less than 30 days. That's the time on the MLS. So we look for, cash sales in 30 days or less. And if there's enough of those to support that, then we say, okay, we're going to list that on the MLS.
Nice.
But we have a very unique way of making offers on properties and deciding what properties are going to sell for. And the way we do it is a very simple way. It's kind of like a McDonald's approach, if you want to think about it like that, right?
Okay.
So what we do is we actually have a flat percentage model, right? To where, just give you an example. If we have percentages broken down by area, okay? We found these out based on the average price that we get properties under contract, right? So for example, we found in the Tampa Bay area, we typically get properties under contract for 50 to 55% of the ARV, okay? Sometimes you have outliers outside of that where, the least the seller will take is around 60%. But regardless, we go for 50 to 55%, right? Then what we do is we say, okay, off the last 100 deals we've done, what is the sales percentage, right? Because what I noticed is that a lot of people are using different formulas. Some people do, 75% of ARV minus repairs. Some people do, the after repaired value minus the repair cost estimate, and they're totaling up the numbers minus the investor profit that needs to make. Very complicated stuff like that, right? So to us, that was just taking too long. It was too hard to teach. So what we did is I said, okay, I'm curious, the deals that sell, do they all sell for the same percentage in certain areas, right? Or close? So what we did is we took all of those formulas, right? And we took the amount our deals sold for. And what we found is the flat percentage model was accurate within about a couple of grand using all the different formulas. So what we aim to do in the Tampa Bay area is we look to sell properties for around 70% at ARV. That's it. So that way, and we have a calculator built out to where like, okay, if we know we can sell this one for 70%, right? Then anything we get it for below that's profit. So that really helps our team when they're talking to a seller over the phone, decide on what the best price is for us to get this under contract, because they already know we can sell it for. So they're like, okay, anything below that's profit. So I'm just going to do the best I can and get the best deal I can.
I love it. And just for the person that's out there that may not have all of that historical data, right? Could you say that, hey, you can just look at a bunch of sales in the area, homes that may have sold in as is condition, and then just see, divide the sales price of an as is sale versus the sales price of a fully renovated house, and do that enough to get kind of a nice blended average? And could that work?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So if you're in an area where a median home price is, I want to say $400,000 or less. Okay. If you're in an area, well, actually, let's say 200 to 400,000. Okay. Then you can say, if I can get properties between 50 to 60% of ARV of the after repaired value, that's a great starting percentage to go into a market, right? And you want to sell them for around 68 to 70%. So you can start in your market like that and add higher feedback. As you start to see what prices your deals close at, you can adjust those percentages as you need, right? So those are great guides to go into a market. Now, let's say you're in a crazy competitive market like California, right? Where you got the average price is around like $1 million or so, right? It's not unheard of to go in those areas and start with a percentage of 80%. Because the deal is like the average house is like $1 million, 1.5 million. And so there's just a lot more zeros there. So you can go up higher in the percentage and you can use that as a starting point. So you would start there and then just experiment with that sales percentage in those higher markets. Try 85%, then go to 90% and just see how it goes, right? But at the end of the day, those markets are going to be so competitive where your deal is probably going to sell over asking too, for your buyer and for you. And so that's where you just need to play with those percentages and see what works. And I would say go up by about 5% each time. And then once you see that your deal stops selling so quickly and you're getting some pushback on the price, maybe back it off a little bit for the next deal and just see how it goes. But yeah, in areas where 200 to 400,000 in the median home price, and you go to Google, type in median home price in whatever area that you're in, you can see that. Start with 50 to 60% on the acquisition side, on the contract side, and around 68 to 70% on the sales side. Now, if you're in an area that's sub 200,000, which I really don't recommend these types of areas for wholesaling because they're very rural, and you're going to not have any problem getting deals under contract, but you're going to have a problem selling them because the buyer pool is much smaller, right? So for those, I would say in those areas, you got to get good deals and you want to go deep. So I would even say 40 to 55% on the contract side and maybe selling them for around, 60, 65%, to make sure that they fly off the shelf.
And then that makes sense, guys, because when you're in an area where the median sales price is less than 200 grand, then there's just no room for, rehabbers to fix and flip. Mm-hmm. And there's just not enough, margin for them to make money.
Yeah.
And we also had a pretty general rule of thumb. I never really pushed this across the board with the team, but my acquisition manager and myself, we typically would say, hey, if we could get something under contract for around 50% of ARV, it's probably a good deal.
Yeah,
that was just kind of our general rule of thumb. Mm-hmm. And so that makes a lot of sense what you're saying.
Yep. And then there's slight modifications we make, like if a property is a wood frame property in Florida. Florida is known for, moisture, termites, all that stuff. And so we'll, sell those for no more than 55 to 60%. But I mean, there's modifications you make to it as you go along. But the important thing is starting with a baseline, right? Starting with that flat percentage, go in there, do deals, and then adjust where it needs to be for your area.
Love it. And I just want to help some people out with the dispo side of things. So because you're 100% virtual, mm-hmm. In our model, typically if we're going virtual, we say to the homeowner, hey, here's our price. We need to get in there twice. Once for photos, second for our buyers, agents, investors. We try to be as transparent as possible. And then we try to get everybody there at that second inspection. Yep. And then we give everybody 24 hours to make their highest and best offer. Mm-hmm. And then we select the best one. I know that's not always the way that everybody goes. Some people say first come, first serve, or they work with hedge funds and, they give them time and due diligence. What's working for you on the dispo side of things? Like, how are you approaching this from what you're telling the seller and how you're setting up the process? And then how are you selling the deals?
Yeah, great question. So what we do is once our team gets a property under contract with a seller, right? We do that through DocuSign. So we'll actually review the purchase agreement with them over the phone. The big thing when we're presenting an offer and the seller says, yes, so I'm ready to go, we're going to ask them, are you in front of your computer right now? And if they say no, we're going to say, great, when are you going to be in front of your computer today? Oh, maybe in an hour. Okay, great. I'm going to give you a call back in an hour. I'm going to send you the agreement. We'll go through it together. I'll be right on the phone. If you have any questions, I can answer it. And then we can discuss next steps, right? So once the seller signs that DocuSign, the next thing that we do is say, okay, so the next steps, we need to get one of our property inspectors in so they can take pictures of the property. Should only take about 30 minutes. When would be a good time for us to do that this week? And then we get that taken care of. And once we get the pictures, we get those pictures back. Dispo reviews those pictures to make sure that there's no difference from what the seller told us over the phone and what the pictures are. And then our next step at that point is to send it out. Now, what we started doing is a standard procedure. We give ourselves 7 days to market the deal, right? And then we always schedule a group showing in 7 days. So 7 business days, right? So when we get the contract in, we start marketing it through all of our channels, and we set a group showing within 7 days, right? We have a realtor on our team that will oversee that group showing, and we only use realtors because that's an activity of real estate, and that can kind of get touchy in certain areas if you have someone that's not licensed overseeing group showings. But we have one of our realtors in each market oversee the group showings, and for both taking pictures and for overseeing the showings, we pay them basically around $50 to $75. One takes 30 minutes of their time. And just like you said, when the buyers go into the group showing, it's 30 minutes, they're in, they're out, and the realtor stays there until everybody leaves. But during that time, in that 7-day window, we are fully willing to accept a over asking price, right? Matter of fact, that's the only way that we will sell the property before the group showing is if we can get over asking for it. And the main reason is because we have say again.
What's your bar? Do you 5K, 10K? Is there a certain number over asking?
No, it's just really like what they're willing to pay. Like for instance, the buyer for the deal that we're working with right now, he came in 5K over asking, right? But when I saw the sheer volume of people that I had interested in this deal, I was like, you know what? If you could make it 10K, then we got a deal, right? And so he was like, how about 7,500? And I'm like, all right, don't twist my arm. Okay, cool. So anyway, it's a people business, you know what I mean? And we're in this to create win-wins. Yeah. And he's still going to make great money on it. He's going to buy it from us, probably give the tenant some time to move out. And then he's going to put it up on the MLS if I had to guess what's going to happen. But that's how we do. And if we are going to send it to a hedge fund, then we will do that at the very beginning of the process or the end of the process. And the reason we do that is because, like you mentioned, there's like a due diligence period where sometimes they take 3-5 business days, and it makes sense to wait for that because they may be able to pay significantly more than what your buyers will pay. But at the same time, their criteria that they buy is so specific. A lot of times it doesn't even make sense to send the deal out to your list because it's not going to fit your list. It's only going to be something that they want.
Love it. Love it. Good stuff. Well, look, we've gone through everything under the sun, went under the hood with your business, learned a lot. And I'm sure that every listener is going to get a lot of value out of this. But, I cannot let you go without putting you through the lightning round. Are you ready for that?
Fire away.
Let's do it. So look, I have a series of rapid fire questions. You don't know the question. I don't know your answer. So just say the very first thing that comes to your mind. What's been one book that's been instrumental to your growth as a real estate investor?
The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Good one. If you could have drinks or coffee with any one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Robert Kiyosaki. Mainly because the guy has been in this for the long game. He's done it all. He's done the education side and been wildly successful. He's been so successful in real estate. He practices what he preaches. But the main thing that I love about him is he makes things simple, right? That's the whole idea behind the community that I have. Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple. Like I want to show pictures of stick figures and explain wholesale real estate to people so they can understand it really simply, right? Because if you can explain something simple, then it's scalable. And I just love how he goes about teaching.
Very cool. What's the best advice that you have for someone looking to do their very first virtual deal?
Yeah, I would say doing your first virtual deal, I would definitely say get a coach or a mentor, right? Because if you don't, you think you're saving money up, say the amount of opportunity cost that's going to be left on the table, the amount of money you're going to spend on marketing campaigns that may not shake out. Don't do YouTube University.
Right.
Learn from a proven mentor, coach, someone who's been where you want to go. And if they've been where you want to go, then you're going to get there much faster. And time is everything. So don't take 6 months to do your first deal. Get it done in like 30, 60 days.
Right. What's one mistake on a deal specifically or in business in general that if you had a do-over, you would take that do-over?
Yeah. Never hire entrepreneurs. So
Yes.
yeah, like we've hired a lot of people, and entrepreneurs, they're going to come in, they're going to be amazing. You're going to get, you're going to get a ton of production out of them, but they're not going to be with you long-term. And the most important thing is hiring someone who wants to be a part of a team. Entrepreneurs, again, It's only going to be a matter of time before they want to go off and do it on their own.
Very important. Cool. What is the financial goal that you have set for your team for this calendar year?
Financial goal have set for our team. This year, I would say, with everything we're doing in the education space, I would like to say 600,000 is a good goal for us to hit and focus on this year.
Good stuff. If you woke up tomorrow with $500 million deposited into your account overnight, what's the first thing that you would go out and purchase with that newfound money?
You said 500 million?
Yeah.
Huh. So what's the first thing that I would purchase? Well, I'd probably buy my mom a house, right? So that would be number one. Number two, I would take the money, I would invest it into commercial real estate, maybe storage, multifamily. And then I would take the money I get from that, and then percentage of it I would take home, percentage of it I would help of missions group or something like that. But really, at the end of the day, it would be investing in long-term assets and then really making an impact with the money that's generated from those assets.
Good stuff. Last one. What would you tell the person that's looking to scale their business? Maybe they're struggling. They can't put two deals together back to back. What would you tell that person?
So I have something good for this one. So what I would tell you, if you're struggling to do your first deal, focus on one marketing channel until you have success. That channel that I recommend is cold calling. It is the fastest, most effective, and lowest cost channel to get started with. And just do that until you get your first deal. Do that until you get 3 deals. Then you can hire someone to take your spot, right? But I would stay focused on that. And then as far as scaling goes, don't do it too fast, right? It's really easy to crash and burn if you try to scale too quickly. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to do $1 million in my first year. And I'm telling you, you want to take time. It takes 9 months to have a baby, and you got to give your baby time to grow.
Great advice. Great advice. Well, look, this has been super helpful. And I know every listener has learned a lot from everything that you guys have going, how you just focused on your primary goal, how you scaled up your operation, and especially breaking down, how you go about coming up with your offer pricing. I thought that was gold. We went through everything under the sun. I really appreciate it. But please tell us how people can find out more about what you have going on, and even your coaching.
Sure. Yeah. So the best place to follow me is you can go on Facebook. My username is clogan777. On Instagram, I'm Chris Logan REI. Same thing with TikTok. But I have a free Facebook group called Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple. And I highly recommend you to join that. We do a live every single Thursday for about an hour. We dive into a different piece of virtual wholesaling, giving our community the tools they need to be able to go out and virtual wholesale successfully and get their first deal. And then I also have a coaching program. And if that's something that you're interested in, when you're joining the group, there'll be a question that says, do you want Chris to reach out to you so you can learn more about coaching and getting your first deal? Just say yes. And I'll send you a link to book a time in my calendar. If I like what you have to say, I'll consider inviting you in as a client.
Love it. Good stuff. Well, Chris, this has been great. And guys, as always, I want to invite you over to sendmoreoffers.com. There's nothing for sale there, but just a bunch of great resources from great guests and speakers, just like this, resources, show notes. And if you're in Atlanta, if there's anything I can do to help you out, you can even book a call with me there. The best place to reach me is at sendmoreoffers.com. Chris, this has been great, man. I can't wait to see how you're continuing to grow and build and help others. All the best.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. It's been so much fun. I've really enjoyed being on the show, and hope you have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. As always, send more offers, do more deals. Till next time, peace.
That's all for this episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes. But we know you're craving more knowledge to get yourself ready for that next deal. To schedule a call with Brandon to learn more about how to do deals consistently without seller appointments in a repeatable way, be sure to visit us at sendmoreoffers.com. And be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show.